Hey, Shalom everyone. This is your brother Don Yala, aka the Copper Color Aboriginal. And yeah, I changed my name from Copper Color Powhatan, which I really don't use that channel like that, but I will start using it more in the future. And the reason why I don't use Powhatan so much is because, or Powhatan, how some people say it, is because through genealogy, I found out that I have various tribes in my family. So I would dishonor myself by just saying that I'm only a Powhatan when I'm not. And it's funny because when you look at a lot of your ancestors from the past, you will see that they're comprised of many different tribes. One of my ancestors, I saw that he was like 1/8. He was 1/8 of like a bunch of different tribes. You know what I'm saying? They had him documented 1/8 this, 1/8 that, 1/8 this, 1/8 that, 1/8 this. Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, so what I want to talk about in this video, it's not going to be a super long video, at least I don't intend for it to be super long, but I can ramble and go on and on and on at times. But anyway, so what I wanted to talk about in this video is, not being tricked, having your guard up, if you will, to a lot of the BS that they feed us nowadays. They've been feeding us this BS for a long time. Now, I have a real good buddy of mine who has been in the quote-unquote truth for probably, I think, like somewhere less than 5 years, but more than 3 years, I believe, because I've known him for about 3 years. And he said he was in the truth probably a few years before I met him. So I would say about 5 years that he's been in the truth. And recently, I would say probably within the past 2 years, I have come into the understanding that we are Aboriginal to the Americas. There's no question about it at all. Excuse me. I'm up here belching and stuff on camera, but sorry about that. Oh my god, sorry. So anyways, I've came into this truth in the past 2 years, and there's been various things that helped me realize that truth. On this channel, I'm not sure if it's this channel because I have various channels, or if it's on an older channel of mine. I had uploaded some pictures of Aboriginal Americans from the early to mid 1800s, and most of them were dealing with Siouan tribes, tribes that you can find out west. And one of the people who kind of helped wake me up to this truth is I'm gonna give a shout out to Sister Warrior. I'm sure if y'all watch Aboriginal videos, live streams, stuff like that, y'all will see this sister in the comment section. She's a she's a rider, man. She's a real one. Let me put it like that. She's a real one. When I had uploaded the video years ago, she corrected me. It was like, no, those are not who you think they are, and stuff like that, and saying that we are the Aboriginal people. I didn't care too much at this time, and this was probably about like 5-6 years ago that I had made these videos and uploaded them. And the sister was spot on. I didn't know at the time. I thought I knew everything I needed to know, but I didn't. And let me close my window because my neighbors, they out here bumping their music. Sorry about that. My neighbors, they really don't turn up too much, but they just happen to choose the time I'm making a video. And I haven't made a video in a long time. But anyways, she helped wake me up. And various other brothers, what I'm saying? Because then I started finding stuff on YouTube. I think I found... Well, actually, one of the brothers is... I stopped really watching his channel because he really doesn't make interesting videos anymore. But what is his name? CD Fury. He used to make very interesting videos about paranormal things and conspiracy theories, and he even had a few videos where he talked about us being indigenous. So I was like, let me really check this stuff out. So then I came across UB News at the time, before his channel got deleted, which is now UBTV. If you can't find him on YouTube, his name is UBTV. And then also Kareemio, Dane Calloway. I think I found Dane Calloway I found Dane Calloway before I did Kareemio and UBTV. So that really helped wake me up, finding Dane. And of course I found Tasha C, Wanagi. Who else did I find? Attachiness One and his circle of people that he deal with. Opie Neha. I just started watching him a few weeks ago. Opie Neha and a few other brothers who I cannot remember. But they're good. They're a wealth of knowledge. So if you guys are into genealogy and trying to find your peeps, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm digging into the Harris family. So if you guys, the Harris family out of Virginia, my people are, from what I'm tracing right now, they're from Tazewell, Virginia, but they did moving around, because one of my Harris ancestors, Lewis Harris, he spelled his name, or at least they spelled his name two different ways. The one that I find the most is the Louis Harris. So Lewis Harris like that. And then I also find him under Lewis Harris. So yeah, but he moved to Mississippi for a hot minute, had a child down there named Daniel Harris, and then he moved back up to Tazewell. So this Lewis Harris is my great times through, no, I would say my great times maybe 4 grandparent, because Lewis Harris is my grandmother's great grandparent, I believe. And my grandmother, her name is August Celestine Bruner, but her maiden name was August Celestine Howe. And they spelled their name two different ways, Howe, Howa. So it'd be Howe or Howa. Anyways, see, there I go on a tangent. I haven't even gotten to what the video is about yet. But you know, if y'all want to do genealogy and stuff like that, go to their channels, because Tasha C and also Opie Neha, they're very good with that, and they're genealogists. So look at them, man. And you know, Kareemio, he's good with the he's good with the receipts, man. The historical receipts. Go to Kareemio. That brother is a blessing. All these brothers and sisters are a blessing, because they're waking us up. You know what I'm saying? They're waking us up to our identity, and I'm discovering my ancestors, something I did care about before, but I didn't care about putting the work in for. And you know, the 2020 census is coming up this summer, so I'm really trying to get all my ducks in a row. You know, and my family on both my mom's side and my dad's side are from the Virginia area. So my mom's side, both sides, her mom and her dad are both from the Virginia area, even though her dad's side moved down to North Carolina for a while, but they moved back up to Virginia. Well, actually, no, they moved. So my mom's dad's side went from Virginia, moved down to North Carolina, and then split off from there and went to South Carolina and Ohio. And my grandmother's side mostly stayed in Virginia until my grandmother moved up to Ohio, and then had my mom up here. But my dad's side, his father was born in West Virginia and then moved up to Ohio. And then my dad's mom, I believe, could be from Houston, Texas. The reason why I say that is because a relative of hers, her name, my grandmother's name, my dad's mom name is Pauline Preston, and she's related to Billy Preston. So Billy Preston was born in Houston, but I can find very little information on my dad's mother. You know what I'm saying? And it's because his history is so complicated. He was given up as a foster child, so it's very hard to find people like that. Find their genealogy, because that just tears a lot of it up right there. You know what I'm saying? But I got family members in DC and different places across the country. But anyway, so it's very important to do studying, and that's basically the point of this video. It's very important to not be deceived by what we read, especially when it's easily accessible. You know what I'm saying? Because The truth is very, very hard to find. I found that out, and that has been true to me for some years. The truth is very, very hard to find. And if you find information pertaining about a certain subject and it's hard to find, it's more than likely true, because they try to hide the truth. Anything that's easily accessible more than likely isn't true, or is the truth and tainted at the same time. You know, it's a truth with a lie, or it's not the whole truth. You know, and that's what Wikipedia is all about. Wikipedia is filled with a bunch of half-truths, not the whole truth. So that's why you want to go beyond Wikipedia. You want to find some sources that are very, very hard to find, especially in these books, you know. But anyways, with that being said, I wanted to talk about this photo right here, because my friend who I mentioned earlier, you know, I've been trying to wake him up to the fact that everything that he read in the Bible, most of the stuff that he read in the Bible happened over here in the Americas, at the old Israel, the so-called Israel. I'm not going to say Israel, but that's what we know it as in the English language. So-called Israel is over here, not over in the Middle East. So-called Egypt is over here, not in the Middle East. The so-called Babylonian Empire and Assyrian Empire was over here and was not over there. You know, because we find literally thousands of artifacts of Israelite, you know, artifacts here. We find thousands of Egyptian artifacts, Roman artifacts, Greek artifacts even too. I don't believe that Greek and Rome was over here. I believe that they traveled over here, because if you look at Greek literature, they talk about coming over here, and they refer to this place as Atlantis and all this, you know, stuff. But also, you know, all these other old empires like the Babylonian Empire, they were over here. You know, there's a lot of artifacts that show this to be true. You know, this is the true old world. And I've been trying to wake my friend up to that Deuteronomy 28, that we are the people of the Bible. We are the people of the Bible. But Deuteronomy 28:68 didn't happen the way that he was taught. Because he questions things, but I still believe, well, a post that he made about 2 weeks ago, he showed me, even after me telling him, like, yo, bro, I got this to show you, and I was sharing information with him. His post that he made 2 weeks ago showed me that he still believes that we were taken from West Africa and brought over here. So over the past 2 weeks, I've been showing him things, you know, showing him, you know, receipts out of historical books, journals, and stuff like that by explorers, really conquerors, you know, colonizers who came over here, because, you know, they love keeping track of everything they do, you know. So they are our best receipts, you know what I'm saying, of what happened to us. So I've been showing him that, yo, Deuteronomy 28:68 talking about that we will be taken into Egypt again by way of ships, that happened here. That happened when our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean were snatched from their homelands down there and taken to Spain, you know, taken to Portugal, taken to, you know, parts of England, brought up here to, you know, North America, well, the continental North America, and how our tribes up here were taken down to, you know, the Caribbean islands, you know, down in Barbados. We were taken to Barbados, Bahamas, you know, different Caribbean islands, and how, you know, indigenous tribes from Central and South America were brought up here to, you know, the continental North America and brought to the Caribbean islands and just jumbled around. You know what I'm saying? And I've been showing him how, you know, how the supposed transatlantic slave trade didn't happen. You know, there's literally records that you can pull up showing that, you know, that the English kidnapped hundreds of slaves, tried to bring hundreds of indigenous subordinates, shall I say, and I want to say captured indigenous peoples. They tried to bring them up to Europe, and majority of them died on the passage there. See, we have documentation showing that. And what I call documentation is documentation, verifiable documentation that was written at the time. That's the type of documentation I like to go off. Documentation that was written at the time when the situation took place, not hundreds of years later, and it's just based off of speculation and all this other bullshit. I like to deal with receipts of that time. So there are receipts of that time. There's documentation of that time showing Europeans, colonizers, snatching hundreds of indigenous people, prisoners of wars, capturing hundreds of prisoners of war, and taking them up to Europe, and majority of the people die. There are literally receipts showing that about 300 people were captured and only about 20 of them made it, because the rest of them died of sickness and stuff like that. So with that happening, also with receipts of Europeans coming over here, you know, and majority of them dying on their passage here or going back to Europe, how is it possible that they can bring hundreds of Africans over here and these people make it over here? I promise you this: if the slave trade, if the transatlantic slave trade did happen, and they left with their boats filled with slaves coming off the west coast of Africa, by the time they got over here to the east coast of the United States, they would have had probably lost they probably would have lost like 9/10 of their human cargo. You know, I mean, that's just what history with receipts shows me. If that did happen, very little people would have made it over here. So I call bullshit on the transatlantic slave trade, because we know the 20 and odd Africans was translated a few times from 20 and odd Negroes, which was really 20 and odd Negras, and we know that during 1619, or around the 1616, 1619 period, that Dutch man of war ship, we know that was a ship used by the English colony to go down there into the Caribbean and hijack indigenous slaves. And we have those receipts showing that the English used a Dutch flag on their ship, or used a Dutch man of war ship to go down there under the guise of being the Dutch, hijacking Spanish human cargo, which were indigenous people, and then they came up here and became Negroes. And then the Negroes became Negroes. Well, the indigenous people became Negras, which became Negroes, which became Africans. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then they don't even tell you that those Negras didn't even stay there. They took their asses back because those women weren't fit to work. You know what I'm saying? So we can't believe everything that we were told, because my friend, he posted a picture. It wasn't this specific picture. It was a picture of it was a picture of quote unquote African slaves that were brought over here in the Americas, and he was upset because he was like, he put this in his post. I don't know if he was directing it towards me, because I was posting a lot about us being indigenous to this land that week. So he may have been passively aggressively posting that towards me, but when I saw it immediately, I jumped on that post. I was like, brrr, I started lining up, because I was like, bro, you see this picture? Tell me what's wrong with it. And I don't think he could tell me what was wrong with it. And I was like, bro, the first camera wasn't invented until after the transatlantic slavery had ended, because the first decent camera that they had was created in 1830s, I believe, and the transatlantic slavery ended in 1807 or 1808, which is 20 years before the first camera was made. So I'm like, bro, what are you looking at right now? Tell me what you're looking at if the camera wasn't invented until 20 years after the transatlantic slavery. Because he had a picture of a bunch of children sitting on a boat. And I was like, see, right there, you got to think about these things. You have to do critical thinking. You know, it's funny because I told my sister, you know, last week that critical thinking isn't what we thought it was. You know, I was under the same impression as her until I watched the Dane Calloway video and I started looking at the definitions myself. And I used to think that critical thinking was that, you know, thinking on the fly, like in a critical moment. You have to think while you're in a critical moment. No, that's not what it is. I found out after watching Dane's video and looking up myself that critical thinking is thinking with critiquing. You know, so we have to start thinking critically about what we're hearing and what we're looking at. Because if you don't use common sense, you don't think critically. Well, I'm gonna say if you don't think critically, because common sense is what everybody else thinks. But if we don't do critical thinking, we will fall for this. We will fall for it just like my friend did. He didn't think about it like, whoa, well, that's right. Cameras weren't invented way after the transatlantic slavery ended. But he didn't think about that. I did. That was the first thing that came to my mind. You know, because I know better. But see, he was going off of his emotions instead of doing the research himself. Now, that picture that he showed, I've done some digging and I only got so far. What I found, well, at least what they're saying, is that that was a picture during the 1879 off the east coast of Africa. I guess it was a picture of a British naval ship that intercepted a pirate slave ship or something like that. That's the narrative that they're going with. But I'm sure if I do more digging on that, I will find out, just like what I found out about this picture. So this picture right here, I've seen this on Facebook so many times of people using this under the narrative of the transatlantic slave trade. And I've always questioned it. I'm like, well, why are these brothers... How the hell did you get a picture of the transatlantic slave trade when these people, when the camera wasn't invented until 20 years after the transatlantic slave trade ended? Okay, so how the hell did anybody get a picture of it? It makes absolutely no sense at all. So after doing a little digging on this and doing reverse image finding or image searching or whatever, with some apps I have on my web browser, I found out that these pictures, and this is the narrative that they're going with right now, is of the U.S. ship Vermont, I believe down in Port Royal, South Carolina. And basically what they're saying is that these people are contraband of the Confederate plantation owners down in South Carolina. So basically they're saying that these people are slaves. That's what contraband is. Well, contraband is not slaves, but basically like any illegal property. Okay, so these people are supposed to be contraband of the Confederate slave owners down there, and supposedly I guess they rounded these people up and put them on the ship. At least that's a slave. That's a narrative that they're going with, because they're saying that these guys are slaves. That's what they have in the caption and on the websites where you can find this that these people are slaves. But of course, with critical thinking, I'm like, wait a second, something's not right. I was like, something's not right. I'm like, wait, the way these guys are clothed is not right. Because I know for a fact that so-called blacks fought in the Revolutionary War. I know that so-called blacks fought in the Civil War. So I'm like, something definitely is not right. And I was right. I was correct. So when I did a little bit more analyzing on the picture, I see that these men are not dressed like how slaves are supposed to be dressed, right? These brothers look a little too well dressed, okay? And when I started looking at it, I was like, well, what's up with the brothers' gear right here? Like, I noticed that they have very big collars. Because I'm telling you, every time I've seen this picture on YouTube, I mean, sorry, not on YouTube, but on Facebook, people always said that these were slaves. That these were slaves that were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade, getting ready for auction and all this other dumb shit, right? But when I started looking at their clothes, I'm like, wait, this clothing looks very normal. It looks abnormal for what a slave should be wearing, and it looks more similar to what Navy men would wear at that time. I mean, just look at it. The collars and also the handkerchief that goes around the neck. You see how it's tied in a knot right here? Goes around the neck. You can see other brothers wearing it. You know? I was like, wait a second. Let me go and check this out. So, went over to YouTube. I mean, sorry. Why I keep calling it YouTube? Went over to Facebook. And I went to look at, you know, Navy outfits of the 1800s and 1900s. And these are the pictures that I came across. And see, look, here we go right here. Civil War, which was around the same time, that this was taken. This was taken during the Civil War. That's what they say in the caption, that this was during the Civil War. Now look at this look at the garments that they're wearing, and look at the garments that these people are wearing during the Civil War. It looks damn near the same. I mean, it looks the same except for the inside is white. See? And this is the Navy. This is the sailor outfits that they were wearing during the mid-19th century. So see, guys, this is what I'm saying. These men right here are not contraband slaves. These are free men. These are free Aboriginal men right here. And I'm sorry it took so long to get to this point, but like I said, I babble, I ramble, I go on and on and on just talking. Some of you guys may find it interesting, because sometimes I may talk about myself. But look, as you can see, I'm gonna try to zoom in. I can't, for some reason I can't zoom in right now. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Sorry, because usually they have like this little scroll function where you can just, okay, maybe I'm not doing it right. Okay, there we go. You see, look at what this brother's wearing. These are the same Navy outfits. Look at this. Look at that. Just like them. Got the little tie to go around the necks. I wish I can. Let me see if I can zoom into this one too. I mean, they even have it right here in this picture. But look at this. These are the same outfits that these supposed slaves are wearing. Same outfits. So see, guys, don't believe all the bullshit and the hype that they sell you, because a lot of this stuff that they teach us are lies. They're lies, and you have to do digging yourself. Because trust me, if you do image reverse on this photo, they're going to tell you that these guys are slaves, when really these men were more than likely free men who were sailors, who were fighting for the Confederate side, and were probably captured and became prisoners of war again. You know what I'm saying? So that's more than likely the deal that's going on right here. Because if you notice, a lot of these brothers are just sitting down right here. And usually that's what they do with captives. Even to this day, when they round up a bunch of prisoners of war, they usually sit a lot of them down. You know what I'm saying? Or sit all of them down. You know, they got brothers standing up in the back. But I believe the reason why they're standing up in the back is probably because they don't have enough room in the front to take the picture and have all of them sitting down. Especially with this object right here obstructing them. You know, so. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say for now is, you know, don't believe the bull. Don't believe it. Do research yourself. And come to your own conclusion with the work that you've done. You know, just don't settle for the first thing you find, because they're going to lie to you. You're more than likely going to find half-truths. You know, because as I just showed you, these brothers are wearing Navy outfits at the time. They're not slaves. They're not, you know, contraband. These brothers were sailors, free men. And they don't like to tell us that. They do not like to tell us that. That in the 1800s, in the early 1800s, 1700s, and even 1600s, there were more free black, so quote-unquote black men, who we know are really Aboriginal, American Aboriginal men and women. There were more of them in the South, free, than enslaved, and also than what was up in the North. There were more free blacks, quote-unquote blacks, in the South than was in the North. And with my genealogy that I've been doing, I'm being 100% honest to Yahweh, that I have yet to come across a slave in my family tree. And my family tree is actually going all the way back to the 1700s. One of my ancestors is Martin Williams. I believe Creamio mentioned him in one of his videos. I don't know if it was a podcast or a video, but I had made mention of that in the video. I was like, oh man, you're talking about one of my ancestors right there. Martin Williams. He was a Powhatan man. And if any of you guys are related to him, holla at me. We can collab with our work, our foundings and stuff like that. But yeah, I also have another ancestor too, but they fought in the Revolutionary War, fighting right next to the son of a colonizer, George Washington, so I have yet to find any of my family members that were enslaved. All of them most of them were farmers. Most of them worked on farms or owned farms of their own. Thomas Williams is my ancestor who fought he fought next to George Washington. But yeah, I have yet to find any of my ancestors, my so-called black ancestors, my so-called Negro ancestors. I have yet to find any of them that were enslaved. All of them were free. All of them owned land. I had an ancestor who owned up to 1,500 acres of land, which is a lot of land, So yeah. Anyways, guys, that's all I have to say. So I will talk to you guys later. Let me pull this up. So peace out, shalom, and Yahweh bless.